It's going to take us on through his journeys and things like that.
So basically, the setting of this novel is an alternate history that's set somewhere about 250 years ago, in the early 1700s. But it's in a different timeline where Christopher Columbus did not discover the Americas, where the Andalusians are the ones who actually came here fleeing the Spanish Inquisition. Oh. And because of that, they had this law that prevented anybody coming back to the old world. That's why the title is The Old World. So that nobody would come and pursue them and hunt them down.
Okay.
And then at that time, a civil war started between the natives who are no longer accepting the rule of the Andalusians who have been ruling them, or the strangers who came from across the ocean. And they denied that there's any such thing, that any of what they were told was real. So this guy tried, in hopes that he could prevent or stop the civil war in Yaqtiniya, crossed the ocean to try to prove the existence of all the stories or all that they were told that came from the other side.
Is this going to be a series?
Yeah, it's a very vast universe spanning. I mean, it has some time travel components as well, and it has some sort of long living beings. So it's going to span across a decent period of time and there is a decent geographic space. So I'm not sure exact. The original plan was to do something that's complex that also needs a spreadsheet where I would have like 5 different series, each one is a trilogy and set from a different point of view and a different time span. But as I move forward, the structure is slightly changing from one novel to the next.
So this bit we just read, was this set in the old world or in the new world? And he traveled the sea, did he go between?
Yes, so he was explaining his trip from the new world to the old world, and then the part I ended on was when he shipwrecked in the old world.
Yeah, and the opening sounded like it was somebody putting together the Chronicles.
Yes.
And so that's from a different, so he's...
So that guy is in the future, and he's sort of like a researcher who found these chronicles, and they don't make sense to him because the history within them is not in line. So the guy who's writing these chronicles is from our timeline.
Yeah.
And he got his hand on these chronicles that seem authentic, but clearly everything in them just doesn't add up to what we know about history.
Okay.
So throughout the series, this guy will have more and more voice in the novels to give us more perspective of what he thinks is going on.
Great.
How much historical research do you need to do?
Well, it took me about 8 months of research to really, he has spreadsheets, I have like timelines, and I have 2 timelines, one real history and one Yaqtinian history, and there's a lot of connections between the two. So every chapter starts with a date, and these dates actually correspond to important events in our timeline. And I chose those dates to kind of talk about. To me, as I said, it was somewhere in the 1700s, and there was still a civil war in Yaqtiniya, which is this continent. So I'm saying that even in major historical events would always somehow come to life, regardless of how you change history. These huge events will always be occurring. So even though I changed history, still we had a civil war on this continent within the same time frame.
What does the name?
The name what?
What does it
The name of the novel?
Yeah.
Okay, so Yaqtiniya, Yaqtin in Arabic means pumpkin. Yaqtiniya means the land of the pumpkin. And within the story, they explain why they called this land the land of the pumpkin. Basically, it has to do with the religious context. So I always keep missing his name in English. Downum, or is it the prophet that was fallen by Jonah. Okay, so in the Quran, the story of Jonah is when after the whale spit him out, he found a plant of a pumpkin that he used its leaves to cover himself, protect himself as he gets stronger before he can, because he came out, he was ill, he was sick, so he consumed the pumpkin and he was using the pumpkin plant to protect himself. And these people, so he was lost at sea, and that's what saved him. And similarly, these guys, the Moors, when they fled the Spanish Inquisition, they got lost in the ocean before they found this continent. And they had kids, they had families on the ships, and they started getting ill because of malnutrition. And the first plant they found when they got here that they used its nutrition and vitamins to survive was the pumpkin, so they decided to call the land of the pumpkin. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.